This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Let's get right into the news. So Meek Mill. Now there's two reports and stories out here. One, Lil Baby and Lil Durk gave him writer's block, but they also helped him with writer's block in this same thing. So he credits Baby and Durk for putting that pressure on him during quarantine and everything. Because he wasn't able to come up with anything and write. And everybody gets writer's block. I mean, Biggie's talked about it. A lot of people have talked about writer's block, it's just like you draw a blank with creativity sometimes, and you need some inspiration. That's what people always talk about. I need some inspiration. So they start coming to my house and I start noticing the young boys, they just taking me out on the track. He says, I'm taking 2 hours to finish my verse. Khaled know how I do 9 songs a day. I love how he's referencing Khaled, the one who turned his back on him when the whole Drake beef happened. And then he's like, yeah, I just wasn't in it, but I fed off of them. And I told them that, y'all youngins in the building, I'm feeding off y'all today. I need that energy. It's funny how he calls them youngins too. This shows that Meek Mill is about 37, 30. He's probably like 38, 37, 38. So 10 years difference, not couple years difference. So anyways, then he says, for the indication, still running the track, found Baby and Durk's collaborative voice on Hero's album, Inspiration. Well, I'm glad he got out of his writer's block. I mean, everybody gets it. I'm just saying it's funny how, I don't know. It's Meek Mill, you know what I mean? So when he talks about stuff, it's under a microscope, because he says so much off the wall stuff. But that pressure had Meek Mill doubting himself. That's what really happened. These guys turned up. Meek Mill felt like he was being left in the dark. And a lot of people were saying Lil Baby took Meek Mill's spot tenfold. But we'll see what Meek Mill comes to this next album. I mean, he did disappear from social media, so he has an album coming. You got Kanye dropping, Drake, Meek Mill. So obviously that Meek Mill and Drake track will drop soon because Drake's going to cross-promote with his album, so we'll see how all this stuff shakes out. Will Smith and Jay-Z team up to do rent-to-own startup. Now, rent-to-own, okay, is kind of there's a company called Divvy that does this, okay, and it is a good way to kind of get into home ownership, I guess, if you can't get a mortgage and everything. But it's just like a mortgage. If you break the contract, there's you could lose everything you put into it. So you got to be ready to do a rent to own deal, There's also, I'm not saying they're doing this, but there's also a lot of there's different ways to do rent to. I've looked into this before because a long time ago I was thinking maybe I should just do rent to own, right? But you end up usually, I'm not saying they're doing this, paying more you do in a mortgage anyways, you pay more for the house, right? And a mortgage, if you do 30 years, usually you're paying a good, 20% over the price, usually. With compounded interest and everything, I don't care if you get a 3.1 or a 4.1 interest rate. You're still, if you do the math, but you actually, technically, you're going to be paying more than that. You're going to pay a good amount more than that for the house. Obviously, the bank needs to make money over 30 years, right? So, you're going to do the same thing here, but you could be paying more for the house is even worse than a rent-to-own. Always have a lawyer look at a rent-to-own contract because there's like maintenance issues. You might be covering the maintenance yourself. You got to agree to a purchase price, and sometimes it's higher than the market value. You got to look at just the lease itself, and when the lease is up, do you have to purchase the house right then and there, or do you lose everything, or can you just renew the lease and keep doing that? the rent to own, because there's a certain time where it expires and you have to get a mortgage yourself. It gives you time to, and doing this now when housing prices are at a sky high, this isn't even a great time to buy, to be honest with you, if you live around a major city. Interesting, though, that they're getting into that. But always question everything. Just because it's Jay-Z and Will Smith doesn't mean it's a good deal, okay? But I think homeownership is good because rents will continue to go up, right? But if your mortgage or if they're going to give you a lease to own that's at the same price every month, at least it won't go up anymore. That's the whole point of kind of doing a mortgage at one, it's also to own something, but it's also you're keeping your monthly fees for having shelter pretty much the same for 30 years because rent always goes up in an apartment building. Moneybagg Yo declared the hottest artist by Snoop Dogg. Duh! Snoop Dogg, you're late. If you just look at sales, he's been declared this. He's Snoop always does this. He finds the hottest guy and then he says, "You're the hottest guy in the game." Dude, you're late. Snoop, stop. You didn't grab him 3 years ago and say he's the hottest guy in the game. You're here when he is the hottest guy in the game. We already know that. But it's Snoop, so it's like Snoop's like the hip hop. He is hip hop. He's the guy when people look at he's the most recognizable person in hip hop, period. So, I guess they just, when he says something, they just amplify it more. But we already knew he was the top rapper in the game. Well, Young Buck's having trouble. So the court, he declared bankruptcy at one point. And when you declare bankruptcy, you're trying to get out of obligations. Okay. He had obligations to pay a bunch of stuff, and he had to get out of these debts. One of those debts reportedly is 50 Cent. Reportedly, 50 Cent is one of these debts that he has. Let me get to it. He's one of these debts that he has to fulfill. I don't know if that's true. I mean, probably is true. So Buck listed assets totaling of $5,761 with liabilities totaling $48,000. So that means he doesn't have a house and he probably has a car. That's the $48,000. Asset $5,000. That doesn't even make sense. Then it appears that the rapper owes $45K in child support and $1,250 in other debts. Okay. He needs to hit the road, man. Get this money up. At the end of the day, Buck also stated documents he didn't have a vehicle and was using his girlfriend's car. So what's the $48,000 in debts? Trustee was appointed to Buck's assets to get him back on track, but refuses. He was reported his royalties are approximately $35K. So he can't get paid in checks. Otherwise, they're going to take it all. They're going to garnish it. He has to get paid in cash. And then Buck's former friend, 50 Cent, might be, if I were Buck, I would start releasing a lot more music and just get this debt over with, man, because you're too far set back in life right now. You got to get ahead. And meanwhile, he's posing in front of cars that cost $400,000, $300,000. It's like, dude, please be responsible. Gonzo sadly passed. We reported that couple hours, 12 hours ago or whatever. But he, it's being reported that it was over a girl, which a lot of people pass over a girl. Like maybe he was messing with the same girl some other guy was, and they lit his car up. I don't know. It's sad because honestly, he is linked to Tupac and Ice Cube back in the days, but nice guy. I mean, I've met him once before. I mean, he's a nice guy, and then he didn't seem like he was like banging on people or anything. He kind of left that behind him, and like, he gave advice online and stuff like that, and had his little, he had his following doing that, like like Bosco 100 does. They comment on stuff and everything, and yeah, it didn't seem like he would have passed. I mean, this way, like this is sad, man, unexpected. And he just had that fight with Bosco. Or, I don't know, man. Seemed like, I don't know. It's sad when someone passes. That's it, man. I appreciate you guys. It's Jordan Tower with JT News. Just getting it started for the day. I'll check you guys in the next one. I know it's a late start to the day, but hey, it is what it is. It's Jordan Tower with JT News. I'll check you guys in the next one. Peace.